Sometimes in a game of pool we end up with balls tightly packed together in a cluster. Now, we're all used to seeing snooker players finding an angle and blasting into the pack to open up all the reds. However, in the game of British 8 ball, this is not a tactic that I'd strongly recommend. Firstly, there's far more room on a snooker table, and therefore you're much more likely to end up with lots of balls in potable positions. You also only need to end up on one of many balls to have a shot. The English pool table is much smaller, and therefore the balls are far closer together. You're also likely to only have a few of your balls in that cluster, so the chances of landing on one of them are reduced. My first bit of advice is, do I really need to go into the cluster? Whilst things may look tightly packed, it may be that with some careful positional planning, all the balls are actually potable. If this is the case, then you're much better off carefully picking off your shots and not moving anything at all. Sometimes, however, there may be a ball or two that just won't pop without moving things a little. In this case, we have little option but to develop the balls somehow. If we're going to do this, then there are a few things to bear in mind. The first thing to remember about going into a group of balls is that you're introducing lots of elements that are hard to predict. You can try and work out the path of the cue ball into the pack, but it's difficult to be 100% accurate with this. Then there are the collisions of the balls between themselves. What ball will impact with another and at what angle? If this shot is played with any sort of power, then working out the final position of several balls is almost impossible. Because of this, I prefer to play these shots gently. All you're looking to do is to move a problem ball a few inches to make it potable, without moving too much else. The next thing to think about is establishing balls that need moving early on. We could pot several balls here and leave the cluster until later. The problem with that is that if we go into the balls later, then we have less balls that we might be able to pot afterwards if things don't go exactly to plan. Because of this, it's also good to look for balls that are easy to pot, which will give us a safety net. In this setup, we have a red over the corner pocket and one over the middle. This is great because it means that we can go into the pack with the knowledge that whatever side of the first red we catch, we should end up on either of those two balls. Finally, try to work out as much as you can where things might move depending on how we catch the pack. As I said, this can be difficult to predict, but if the shot is played fairly gently, we can limit the movement and try and give ourselves the best outcome. So in this situation we have a nice angle off the red to the middle to go into the cluster of balls. The ball that we want to develop is the one at the bottom, as it won't currently pop. Because it's touching the black, we only need a small contact to move it down a few inches and into a potable position. The red that we'll hit first if the shot is played with stun is slightly to the right of the black, so we know that this will move in this direction and into a little bit of space. The other red is already potable and doesn't need to be moved. Then we look at which side of the red is best to contact. If we hit the ball full ball, then we'd probably be okay and we'd still be on the ball back to the middle and possibly on the one to the corner, depending on where the red that we hit ends up. If we hit the ball to the right, then we should still be on the one to the middle and also be far enough away from the ball that we've hit to be on the ball to the corner. If we hit the ball to the left, then the white would be heading towards this yellow. This is not great because if we hit it too soft, the white could get tied up amongst these balls. Hit it too hard and we could send the yellow towards the corner pocket. So with those things in mind, it's best to aim to contact the ball to the right to give us the most options. If we pull back a touch too far, then we'd still contact straight and we'd be okay. So we play the shot with stun to come along the tangent line and make contact to the right of the first red. It's played with enough pace to achieve the stun and move the problem ball, but not so hard as to spread the other balls around wildly. So this has worked out nicely, and now we have a choice of the ball to the middle or to the bottom right corner. Taking the one to the corner gives us better position on the next ball, so we'll take that one next. Now we can pot to the other corner and come off the side cushion and onto either of the two reds. Now we've landed nicely on the ball to the left corner, but at this point we need to consider the black. At the moment this only goes to either the right middle or either of the top two corners. Now, as I said at the beginning, we could develop the black so it pops into more pockets when potting one of the other reds, but is it worth the risk of not quite working when we know that the black will already pot somewhere else? By planning our route, we can make sure we're in a position to pot the black into one of the pockets that it currently goes to. All we need to do is make sure we end up somewhere in this region and we'll have a pot. With that in mind, the red to the middle gives us a nice angle down to there if we end up above straight. That means that we can stun the first red to the corner, then play the red to the other corner, leaving us a nice angle onto the red to the middle to get down for the black. By comparison, let's have a look at what might happen if we blast into the cluster. We might get lucky, and with the balls over the pockets we know we should have a shot, but where the other balls end up is guesswork. The problem is there's just too many variables for it to be consistent. Play it again and we might knock a red against a cushion. Again, and maybe tie up a red behind one of our opponent's balls. We might even pot a yellow and give our opponent two shots. So as you can see, the best approach is to try and move as little as possible and limit the variables. These shots always have an element of risk, but by playing them like this we can reduce chance to a minimum. If you want to see more practice routines and pool tutorials, then please remember to subscribe. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I use in this video, then there are links in the description below.